Hello and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Mount and Blade Bannerlord, specifically the Realm of Thrones Total Conversion mod that brings the game into the world of Game of Thrones. Today we are going to be continuing our armor video series, and we're going to be focusing on Dorne in today's video. And this one is an interesting topic because I think it's very high quality, but very efficient. So you'll find that a lot of the armor pieces are made to be generalized, and then they just have a couple core pieces that will be swapped out to show the different houses. And I like that system. I think it cuts down on bloat, and it definitely makes armies of mixed units still look like they fit together rather well, but they can be identified individually by, in this case, the cuirass usually being different. But with all that being said, we're going to follow the same basic pattern we follow for all of these videos, and I'm going to look at the troops first for this faction, so you can see kind of what troops to expect if you're using Dornish units in this game, and kind of what their armor is going to look like, and then after that we'll go through the full suits of armor as I have been able to find them, using only items that belong to this region. So, with all that being said, let's just dive on in and start off with the troops. And starting with the basic troop tree, starting with the Dornish peasant, we have the Dornish peasant, obviously. And I'm not going to go through item by item showing you all of the armor that each of these units has. We're just going to streamline it a bit, and I'll show you each of the units so you get a look at them, and I might make little comments here and there, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty high level. So, starting off with the Dornish peasant, that's all vanilla assets, and the Dornish recruit is basically the same. Then we have two options to go down from there that will bring us to our different troop trees, and we're going to start on the left with the Dornish bowman, which once again is just using all vanilla assets. Once we get down to tier 3 though, we start seeing a lot of our, unique in-mod assets. So starting with the archers, we have the Dornish archer, the Dornish elite archer, and the Dornish master archer. All of those are using, at least the majority of the pieces that they're using are unique in-mod assets. So not vanilla, they all look good for the faction, and overall I just think they look like good suits of armor. So that's the archers for this troop tree. If we go down through the mounted archers, which again is pretty rare in this mod. You don't see a lot of the mounted archers or like standalone, dedicated mounted archers in this mod, especially not in Westeros. So other than the Mormont ones up in the north, Dorne is pretty much your only option for a Westerosi mounted archer troop. So we start that with the Dornish mounted bowman, then go to the Dornish horse archer, and finally the Dornish sidewinder being their elite mounted archer. So a very good unit, very heavily armored. In fact, because of the fact that they have better armor, I find that they typically will outclass the Dothraki mounted archers, which are basically the best mounted archers in the game. The only thing that makes them, in my opinion, still better than the Dornish Sidewinder is that they have 2 quivers of arrows. So if you're using them specifically as a mounted archer unit, skirmishing them on the flanks where they're not getting into a lot of combat, they're better because they have more ammo. But these ones have better armor overall. So plus they have, a sword and shield instead of just a arrow as their backup weapon. So they do make a better infantry unit in a pinch. So that is our Dornish Sidewinder, our top tier Dornish mounted archer. Then if we go down the other side, starting with the Dornish Levy, we once again have a troop that just has a bunch of vanilla assets, but then either troop tree is once again better. So we start with the Dornish Spearman on this side, which is a infantry unit, but that's our cavalry line. So if we upgrade it again, we go to the Dornish Horseman, and finally to the Dornish Cobra Cavalry for their heavy cavalry unit, which is nice because they are a heavy cavalry unit with a large polearm, but they also have some throwing weapons, so that gives them a little bit of versatility. On the other side, we have our heavy infantry with the Dornish Footman, the Dornish Soldier, and finally the Dornish Prince's Guard, which is a fairly well armored unit. So all in all, I would say pretty good looking units across the board. Like I said, nothing super flashy or unique or anything like that, but they all do look very comprehensively armored and uniform, and I like that. So that's our first Dornish troop tree. Our next one is the Ironwood, and I know it's spelled Ironwood, but it's actually pronounced Ironwood, so that's fun. This one starts with the Ironwood Levy, then goes to the Ironwood Man-at-Arms, and from there we have 3 troop trees, or 3 troop paths, I should say. Starting with the archers, we have the Ironwood Archer and the Ironwood Veteran Archer. Then we have the Ironwood Pikeman and the Ironwood Veteran Pikeman, and then we have their cavalry, which is where we get to their elite unit. So we have the Ironwood Horseman, the Ironwood Knight, and finally the Boneway Guardian, which is the elite unit of the Ironwood troop tree. All of these, once again, looking pretty good. Instead of the blue that we had with the regular Dornish, we can see we have the black underneath for the Gambeson, and our cuirass is different with the Ironwood sigil being right on the chest. So that is the Ironwood troop tree. Then we have the Martell troop tree, which is, of course, the units of House Martell, the leaders of the of Dorne. So this starts out with the Martell Levy, and right away we have a unit which is predominantly not using vanilla assets, so I do do appreciate that. Then we can go down 2 paths from there. So we start with the bowman with the Martell bowman, and then the Martell archer, and finally the Martell veteran archer. The other side we have is the Martell footman, which is an infantry unit, and we can upgrade that to the Martell spearman, and we see the jump to heavier plate armor featuring the Martell crest, and the Martell house guard. So very fancy, very cool, much better armor. If we go down the other path here, we can get to their elite unit. So we have the Martell rider, which is a cavalry unit, the Martell horseman, which is a better armored cavalry unit, and finally the Water Gardens sentinel, which is their elite heavy cavalry unit. All very good, I would say. Once again, we have a solid grouping where if you wanted to make a whole army out of them, they all look good. They're not using a bunch of vanilla stuff, so they stand out in the mod, and I think aesthetically speaking, they all look very well made. So that's the Martell troop tree. Then we have the Dorne noble troop tree. So that starts with the Dornish youth, moves up to the Dornish glaveman, the Dornish elite spearman, the Dornish spear master, so he's the master of the spears, and finally the Dornish viper, which is the top tier there. Interestingly, for a noble troop tree, there is no cavalry unit, so these are all infantry units, and even more interestingly, they're a hybrid infantry skirmisher unit because they have a throwing weapon equipped. So it's very unique, and again, I think the armor is all very solid. So that is our Dornish noble troop tree. And that is it for the troops of Dorne, so not a ton of variety there. I would suspect that at some point we're going to get some more house stuff, possibly from House Dane in Starfall, just because they are getting some love already in this most recent update, and I'll show you that in our armor section. But yeah, a fairly well streamlined region, I would say overall, and that mostly is probably just because they don't feature all that heavily in the series. So with all that being said, now that we've covered the troops, let's move on to our full suits of armor, and we're going to follow the rules as we always do in these videos. We can only use items that belong to this region, so we're not going to loan out any boots from somewhere else. So no Jon Snow boots will appear in this video. They have to either belong to House Ironwood, House Dane, House Martell, or Dorne as a whole. So let's just get to it, and I'll show you the armor for this region. So much like the Reach, we're going to be suffering from same boot syndrome for this entire faction. So these are the Dane plated boots, and you're going to see them on every suit of armor for this faction because, once again, none of the rest of the Dornish suits of armor come with matching boots. I suspect, and I'll check this quick here to show you, but I suspect they're once again going to all be Jon Snow boots. So in the regular Dornish troop tree, we have Jon Snow boots for the Master Archer, the Sidewinder has Jon Snow boots, the Cobra Cavalry has Jon Snow boots, and the Prince's Guard has Jon Snow boots. For the Ironwoods, once again, Jon Snow, and Jon Snow. So I don't feel the need to continue going through all of them just to prove it to you, but once again, that's the same thing. If you watched the video that I made for the Reach, it's the same thing here. They don't have any boots except for this one pair of boots. So that's the ones we're going to be using for all of them. But with that being said, here we have the basic Martell infantry unit. So this one is made up of the Dornish turban, the Dornish pauldrons, the Martell cloth armor, the Dornish bracers, and the Dane plated boots. Even though the boots look a little goofy with this light of armor, it still works for me. I don't think anything looks horrible. I think that obviously our pauldrons clip a little bit with our cloth armor because this cloth armor is it's like a thicker thing that they did. I'm not sure what type of armor it is. Probably some type of really thick gambeson or maybe really thin brigandine, but it's weird that it's open in the middle if it's a brigandine. But you can see that the sleeves have that wide open aspect to them as well, which kind of serves as their own pauldrons, so it makes the pauldrons clip a little bit. But overall, I don't hate it. It's okay for a very light suit of armor, if a little bit strange. But that is our Martell basic armor. And then we have another variant on that, which just basically changes out for the turban for a helmet and then the pauldrons to match. So this one is made up of the Dornish plate helmet, the Dornish pauldrons too, Martell cloth armor, Dornish bracers, and Dane plated boots. So looks a little bit better in my opinion, and we have a helmet instead of a turban, which obviously offers a lot more protection. So I would say the other one would be more suited for an archer unit. This one is more suited for infantry in that regard, you know, melee needing a little bit heavier armor. But with all that being said, that is our second variant of the light Martell armor. Next, we have probably our best suit of armor for the region, simply because it's the only one that is actually a full suit of armor, so automatically it's going to get my respect, but also because it does look pretty cool and very unique. And this is the Dane Knight, or the Dane Elite armor, however you want to look at it. And it is very unique. I love the color scheme. I love the purple all over, so we get a little bit of that accent up on the pauldrons, a big piece on the cuirass with the Dane house sigil right there in the middle. And then, of course, we have the purple down below. So it all looks really cool together. I'm expecting a troop tree at some point to implement this for House Dane. Currently, they haven't, or at least I didn't find any, but it looks cool enough that I'd love to have an army of people wearing this. But this suit is made up of the Dane Elite Helmet, the Dane Pauldrons, Dane Plate, Dane Plated Gloves, and Dane Plated Boots. So like I said, it's the only one where all 5 pieces not only look really good together and are obviously designed to go together, but they're also named to go together, and that really makes me appreciate it. So that is our Dane Elite armor, probably the best suit from the entire faction. Next we have our standard Dornish plate armor, which would be, suitable for any heavy infantry or cavalry unit in Dorne, or I suppose even a lord if they don't have, they don't want to be rocking the sigil of a house that they don't belong to. So if you don't belong to House Martell or Ironwood, this would be basically the best you can do, other than House Dane. This one is made up of the Dornish plate helmet, the Dornish pauldrons 2, the Dornish plate armor, the Dornish bracers, and the Dane plated boots. So it all looks pretty good together. Obviously that blue and silver combo is classic and just looks really good, doesn't clash at all. The boots are a little bit wide for the rest of it because the rest of this armor has a very sleek and streamlined look to it, and the Dane plated boots are a little bit more bulky and blocky looking. They look good with the Dane armor, but they do look a little bit off if you look at them too long with this suit. Other than that though, I like it. It's got the Bergenette style of helmet, which is fun and definitely extremely modern for the medieval setting. Those would be something that you'd see more commonly in like the 15 or like late 1500s, early 1600s, whereas a lot of the other armor in this mod looks like something you'd see in the 11 and 1200s, if you'd see it at all, because stuff like the Westerlands armor is very Eastern inspired and kind of comes from all over the place. But whatever the case may be, I like this suit of armor. I think it looks good, and as far as something that is just broadly applicable, it's hard to beat this. So that is our Dornish plate armor. And following up on there, we have the very similar House Martell plate armor. It's basically the exact same suit, just swapping out the torso. So we have the Dornish plate helmet, the Dornish plate pauldrons 2, or pauldrons 2 I should say, and the House Martell plate armor, Dornish bracers, and Dane plated boots. So basically all the same positive things I said about the last one apply here, because the only major difference is the fact that we have the Martell sigil, which is, the burning sun right on their chest. And that obviously does make it look significantly cooler, and also opens it up to another variant on this armor. So this is the first variant of the Martell plate armor. The other variant is just swapping out the pauldrons. So now we have the Dornish pauldrons, the basic ones, instead of the number 2. These ones have that extra gold up on the shoulder. It looks a little weird with the normal Dornish armor, but when you have that sun on there, it matches relatively well. So for the House Martell heavy armor, we have 2 variants essentially, and it's just swapping out the pauldrons. So overall, I'd say looks pretty dang cool, and because of the fact that we got a little bit more gold on the suit, it looks a little bit fancier, so I guess it looks a little bit better than the regular Dornish plate armor. But that is our Martell plate armor, both variants. And lastly, we have another one where it's just a basic variant, and that is the Ironwood plate armor. And now this one has the advantage of looking significantly different because instead of, like I said when we were looking at the troops, that blue surcoat underneath, or gambeson, whatever it may be, we have black here. So it does look different enough for me to consider it kind of a bit flashier, because I would say the black looks a bit better than the blue. And once again, just like the Martell house, we have 2 variants for this one that you can very acceptably do. So this one has the Dornish plate helmet, the Dornish pauldrons, the House Ironwood plate armor, the Dornish bracers, and the Dane plated boots. So you can see that we have the first variant of the Dornish pauldrons that has the extra gold on it. Once again, because we've got that gold sigil there and the gold accents on the helmet, it matches and looks very, very cool. So this is the way I prefer it. But we can swap out those pauldrons for just the silver ones as well. And that kind of gives you another variant. So I guess if you wanted to distinguish between a Dornish or a House Ironwood Lord armor and just the regular rank and file, you could use these plain silver ones for the rank and file, and then these golden ones for the Lord variant. But it's a very small difference, I would say. So maybe not worth distinguishing. But that is all of the full suits of armor for Dorne in this mod. Like I said, I like the way they did it because it streamlines the operation. I would have just a Dornish plate boot option instead of having to use these House Dane ones. That's the only change I would make though, other than, like I said, if you want to do unique troop trees for other houses in the region and give them their own sort of very unique flavor. I always love that because in the medieval world, the feudalistic society and everyone wanting to distinguish themselves is one of the cool parts of it. But I do like the efficiency in the Dornish armor design in this mod. But that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, hope you found it useful, and if you're a fan of Dorne, hopefully you appreciate the armor that they've implemented into this mod. But that's all for today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.